Red Rain by Brooks Kohler, March 2004. A blast of humid air swirled around Angela Barstow's face as she finished pinning the last cotton linen on the clothesline. The back of her neck felt sticky and damp. Her summer dress, moist from perspiration, clung to her like dew on a blade of grass. Reaching around, she pulled her thick, blonde ponytail to the front, and using her fingers eased out the tangles caused by the morning chores. Proudly looking at the clean clothes, she turned her attention with concern to the large, fluffy clouds overhead. They were numerous. Clumps of silver and gray, mixed with shades of black, gave the telltale signs of afternoon showers. But regardless, her wash had to dry, and if the wind was right, hopefully, it would in time, and not be soaked by the heavy downpour that was a certain threat. With one final tug at the line to make sure the clothes wouldn't slip off, she made her way back to the house. Once inside, she retired to the kitchen where she checked the stew that was simmering. The air was pungent with the aroma of potatoes and onions. Lifting the heavy cast-iron lid, steam escaped, enveloping her face. The sudden shock of heat caused her to drop the lid. It crashed to the floor and bounced off her big toe. "Ouch, ouch, ouch," she shouted, jumping around, biting her lip to keep from using any other choice words to describe the feeling. Gathering her wits, she picked up the lid and placed it back on the pot. From the backyard, her 8-year-old son Samuel heard the commotion and came bursting into the kitchen. "Mama! Mama!" "It's okay, sugar," said Angela, rubbing her foot. "I'm fine. But run down to the field and get your papa." As Samuel retreated out the back door, Angela took a seat in one of the rickety oak chairs surrounding the table. Slipping off her shoe, she caressed her toe. In doing so, however, a sharp pain came on instantly, and she released it with the immediacy of touching a red-hot ember. Trying to wiggle it, she let out a low, muffled whimper, but again the agony was too much to bear, and she resolved herself to waiting for John to assess the damage. 15 minutes later, John stepped into the kitchen, Samuel following as close as his shadow. "You okay, Ange?" he asked. "Oh, I went to raise the lid on the pot and I dropped the stupid thing on my toe. Here, let me have a look." Carefully, he took her foot into his dry, crusty hand. Despite the pain, she wanted to giggle. His hands felt like sandpaper against her tender flesh. "Yes, ma'am. Looks like you banged it up pretty good. Let me get the tin of salve from the bedroom." Watching his father leave, Samuel dropped down to his knees and began to study the toe. An inquisitive little fellow, he reached out to touch it, but when he did, she jerked it away. "No, Samuel," she pleaded, "leave Mama's toe alone." Teasing her, he reached out again. "Samuel!" The boy looked up at her. "I said leave Mama's toe alone." Before Samuel could do any more antagonizing, John came back to her aid. "Now, I don't know how good this will work, Ange, but remember when that old mare kicked me in the knee?" She nodded with a nervous grin. "Well, I thought I'd never get better," he continued, "but this here little tin of jelly did the trick." Using an ample amount, John slowly and meticulously worked the salve in and around the battered appendage. As he did, Angela drew back and breathed deeply, trying to thwart the pain. Samuel stood by his mother and took her hand. She smiled and said, "You're Mama's little man, aren't you?" Pleased by the comment, John peered up at her. It felt good to be taking care of such a kind person as she. It was one of the reasons he loved her. Angela wasn't the kind of woman to push a man away when he wanted to care. She was truly something special. Finished, he placed the canister of salve on the table. "Okie dokie, I think that'll do it." With her husband's help, Angela stood up and carefully placed her foot onto the dusty wooden plank floor. "How does it feel?" he asked, still holding on to her. "Like a horse stomped it." "Good," he replied jokingly. "Horse stompings heal a lot faster than lid smashings." Tickled by his comment, she thought about his humor. How did he do it? John always knew how to make her feel as though everything was going to be okay. The sky could be falling, but John Barstow would find something positive to say about it. She sometimes pictured such an odd event happening. More than likely, John would respond by saying, Now he won't have so far to look up. It was his nature to look on the bad with an open mind, and she loved him for it. Taking the salve back to the bedroom, John returned moments later to announce that he was heading back to the field. "There's a good rain building up," he commented. "I've got to get the last 5 acres taken care of before it comes." The sharp jabbing sensation in Angela's toe had now subsided to a slow, annoying throb. She leaned herself against the edge of the table. A sheen of sweat glistened to her brow. John approached. Angela closed her eyes, and pulling her near, he gave her a soothing kiss on the forehead. Then releasing her, he patted Samuel on the head and walked to the back door. Hearing the screen door slam shut, Samuel smiled one last time at his mother and quickly darted off in the direction of his father. Alone now, Angela hobbled over to the window opposite the stove. Peeking out, she noticed the early morning breeze had picked up a little. The leaves on the mature silver-leaf maple near the corner of the yard flickered like glitter, putting on a natural light show all their own. A short distance from the tree, the sheets hanging on the clothesline resembled the sails of a ship. Every so often a sudden gust of wind would catch the linens and swoop them up high into the balmy air, causing them to become suspended on a platform of air. Then, as quickly as the current animated them, they would fall and succumb to the forces of gravity in which they ultimately had to obey. As tantalizing as it all was, she knew that John was right. Rain was converging on their modest homestead. The leaves of the maple, usually flat and outstretched, were instead curled up. Curled up leaves meant rain. She had learnt that from her father, who subsequently learned it from his. Looking around at the rest of the yard, Angela ascertained that the tree was not lying. All of the varieties of trees had the same appearance with their leaves curled up, like hands cupped for water, thousands of trembling hands clamoring for a drink. Gathering the courage to apply more pressure to her foot, Angela eased her way back to the stove. Once again she lifted the lid off the kettle, but this time did so more cautiously than before. Steam plumed before her eyes, and as it evaporated, the stew came into sight. Chunks of potatoes churned in the watery brown broth, peppered with shavings of green onion and spiced with a mixture of homemade seasoning. Using a wooden spoon, she stirred the concoction until she was sure she had done it some good. Then, dipping the spoon at an angle into the steaming soup, she took a sip. Postulating for a moment on the flavor, she came to the conclusion that her soup needed more salt. Adding a sufficient amount, she reapplied the spoon and raised it to her lips. Now that's good vibration stew," she said to herself. Pleased by her accomplishment, Angela had momentarily forgotten about her injury, but in making a quick turn to walk to the porch, she was easily reminded when she bumped her already swollen toe against the table leg. "Ooh, ooh, ooh, ooh," she sounded as she bounced around on her good leg as if it were a pogo stick. Holding her foot in her hand, she managed to prop herself against the table, allowing the sensation to take full effect. "For the love of all that is holy," she exclaimed, "that's smarts!" Unfortunately, the least of her troubles had not yet been realized, for outside John was witnessing a most magnificent sight. The western horizon was slowly becoming a brilliant shade of brownish pink, illuminated by a backdrop of white sky. The fluffy clouds that once floated gingerly by had now assembled themselves into a streamline of gray, their only purpose to be what resembled a rope to hold up the translucent curtain of soiled rain that was hedging its way to the farm. Not aware or concerned with what was happening beyond the safety of her kitchen, Angela sat resting, taking slow, deep breaths to try to alleviate the agony she was experiencing since knocking her foot against the leg of the table. While she was sitting there, she noticed that the house had become cooler, and the room had taken on a dimness accustomed to early evening. Resolving that all would be okay, Angela continued to soothe her toe by keeping it on furlough from any normal activity. Then, without warning, the sound of distant thunder abruptly forced her from her feeling of contentment. "What was that?" she asked, sitting up. Before she could say another word, another thunderclap, closer and louder than the one heard a few seconds ago, caused the entire house to vibrate. Like the impact of a cannonball, the thunder walloped the four-room structure with a blow so strong a picture fell off the wall in the room adjacent to the kitchen. Her thoughts immediately turned to Samuel. Taking as much care as possible to avoid any other collisions with the necessaries of life, Angela made her way to the back door. Without stepping outside, she called for the boy through the screen of the door. "Samuel, get in here! There's a storm coming!" However, after the child failed to appear, Angela opened the door and stepped outside. The wind was cool and crisp, the perfect combination for causing her to shiver and develop goosebumps on her arms and legs. Her flowing hair, still tied into a ponytail, was now whipping around, slapping her face and stinging her cheeks. "Samuel!" she cried out again. "Where are you, Samuel?" "Over here, Ange." Angela glanced to her side to see John bent down on one knee, his left arm clenching Samuel tightly. John was pointing off toward the west, trying to get the boy to stand still long enough to pay attention. With a natural response, more than a curious one, Angela looked in the direction he was pointing. Expecting nothing out of the ordinary, she was surprised to see the veil of rain falling in such an odd, streaking manner. "Why does it look like that, John?" "It's red rain, Ange." "Red rain?" "Yeah, it comes out of Oklahoma and Kansas. The clay gets picked up in the clouds, and then it comes down in the rain. In about 30 minutes or so, this farm is going to be one big red mess." John began to chuckle at the thought, squeezing Samuel tightly in his excitement. But something wasn't right. Angela realized she was forgetting something, and then she remembered. "John, I've got clothes on the line," she shouted. "Huh?" John asked, a dumbfounded look on his face. "I washed clothes this morning," exclaimed Angela. "They'll be ruined if what you say is true." Immediately she began to hurry unsteadily back to the house. John released Samuel and rushed to help her. Samuel followed and took his mother's hand. "Don't worry, Ange," said John. "Samuel and I will get the wash in." The trio had barely entered the back door when the first few drops of rain could be heard tapping against the windows. Gradually the number increased, and before long a droning hum was resonating from the roof. The window panes, once clear and easily seen through, had taken on a reddish-brown tinge. Seeing this, Angela limped her way back to the kitchen, where she took a seat at the table. Discouraged, she lowered her head and began to cry. Having no other choice, John grabbed the wicker basket she had used to gather clothes. "Don't worry, Ange," he reminded her one last time before he and Samuel stepped out into the deluge of liquid clay. "Samuel and I will get the clothes in." Angela had doubts about her clean wash. The rain was so thick and heavy that most of the damage had probably already occurred. Resigning herself to the consequences, she wiped off her face and slowly made her way to the stove. Staring down at the pot, she couldn't help but feel some animosity towards it. Thanks to that stupid lid smashing her toe, the whole day was ruined. "If it hadn't been for that lid," she said aloud, "everything would be fine." Soon she found herself in a one-on-one conversation with the kettle, despite the fact that it had no more to offer than an occasional belch of steam. "You smashed my toe," she shouted. "You cost me my clothes." Still, the kettle just belched arrogantly at each accusation. Angered, she picked up the wooden spoon and prepared to whack the cast iron. However, when she swung, the spoon slipped out of her hand and landed hard against her toe. "Ow!" screamed Angela. Tired, frustrated, and unable to take any more, she collapsed onto the floor, holding her foot in a fit of disgust and pain. While she was busy giving up, John and Samuel were stepping back into the porch with the now red stained clothes lining the basket. "Hey, Ange, we couldn't..." When they found her, she was sitting with her legs out and her hands slouched down. "You okay?" asked John. "Fine," she replied, not looking up at them. "We got the clothes." She lifted her head, saw the clothes, and frowned. However, when she focused in on the two of them, she couldn't help but burst into a fit of laughter. Finding it difficult to control herself, she rolled around, gasping for air, stammering out the words, "Red rain. Look at you two, red rain." Thinking she had gone mad during the short time they were busy at the clothesline, he demanded that she let him know what was wrong. All Angela could do, though, was point to the bedroom and say, "Mirror, mirror, go check the mirror." Following her suggestion, John hurried to the bedroom. Glancing in the mirror, he knew what she was laughing at. The red rain had turned his skin an awkward shade of red. Consumed with getting in the clothes, he failed to realize that he, too, was becoming soiled. After a few minutes of pondering over his appearance, he strolled back into the kitchen, a satisfied look now on his face. Samuel had taken his place beside his mother on the floor, and Angela was using her moistened thumb to wipe off some of the mud that had accumulated around the boy's eyes. "So how do you feel?" asked John. "Oh, I don't know," replied Angela. "Kind of like a horse stomped my foot." "How do you feel?" she inquired, still giggling as she asked. Making his way to her, he leaned down and took her by the hand. "Kind of like a tin of salve," he replied, winking when he did. Pausing for a moment to reflect on this comment, she tilted her head and peered at him. The look on his face was honest, and from it she ascertained what he meant. That her laughter was a healing process that had been caused by his clown-like appearance. Content, she embraced his hand, and with a sincere affirmation of her devotion to him, whispered, "I love you, John Barstow, more than you'll ever know."